So you have finally found the right home to upgrade to. And one of the biggest mistakes you can make is contemplating for too long and trying to think about what could go wrong or what the problem might be on that property. And then by the time you're ready to make an offer, it's already sold. And what I'm going to share with you is counterintuitive, because one thing we can learn from professional investor is that they will make the offer first and then think about all of the other things later. Now, why would they do this? Just exactly what I shared with you before, is that sometimes we just take too long to make a decision, and by the time we're ready, the property is already sold. So it all comes down to trying to negotiate risk-free terms. So you can save a whole lot of heartache just making sure that you can get that property under contract at the price that you want, then decide whether or not you want to go ahead. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what the expert investors use as the negotiating terms or clauses in the agreement so that you can accelerate your buying journey. And of course, if you find value, don't forget to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. So the first thing you want to negotiate, I would recommend a long settlement date. What I mean by long would at least be sort of that 3, 5, even 6 months. Sometimes for some contracts, you might even negotiate 12 months. What are the upside of this? The first thing is obviously the price appreciation that you get during the time that you're just waiting for the property to settle. Now, since when you're buying a new property, you might not put up as much of a deposit, this is a pretty good investment on your money. But more importantly, to put you in a safer position, you have more time to actually sell your own property at a good price without being rushed. This also gives you more financing options, like if you can't sell your existing property. And finally, the thing that you're mitigating the most is that you can't get the finance, you can't sell your property. You can actually offload the property that you have just bought under contract and on-sell it to somebody else for a profit without actually settling it. This is called double settlement and is how property traders actually trade contracts. So they might just get a property under contract, they pay their deposit, and they might find somebody during that time before it settles for someone to actually pay a higher price. But for you, for someone who's upgrading, this is actually a massive risk mitigant. So number 2, the term that you want to negotiate is the deposit itself. Now, the standard deposit that the agent is expecting of you is 10%. But of course, you can actually negotiate this because most of the time, as long as you can cover the commission, which is around 3%, the agent's pretty much happy. And the vendor, a lot of the time, they don't actually make use of that money anyway. So generally speaking, you can actually negotiate it down to 5% and in some cases, probably 3%. This is again good for you because as a buyer, you want to put up less money and this is good time value for your money. So number 3, the clauses that you can potentially negotiate on. The first one is always ask for a due diligence clause. This is a preferred clause over the limb report or the building report or the financing clause because due diligence clause will cover everything. And if you're not happy with the property for any reason, you can actually let it go. This actually lowers your risk significantly. And the reason why you don't want to use clauses like the finance clause is because vendor now have the right to actually request for the documentation or evidence that you didn't get finance for it. And so you can't just think that you put a finance clause and because you don't like the property, you say, hey, I'm not going to satisfy the finance clause. This could get you in a lot of trouble if your vendor or the person selling you the property is a bit antsy about it. So again, due diligence clause protects the buyer the most. And naturally, the vendor is not going to like that. The real estate agent's not going to like that because they think you might be mucking around. But of course, for you as the buyer, that's the first one you want to ask for. And if it doesn't work, you could give them something else on top of that clause just to give them a little bit of advantage back. And that is called a cash out clause. Now, cash out clause allows the vendor to actually receive other offers after your offer has gone in. So say, for example, if you offered $1 million and they receive a $1.2 million offer afterwards, they can actually choose to take that offer up. However, the cash out clause usually have a time period. So if they got a higher offer, you might have an agreed amount of time to make a decision to go ahead with the property. You want to negotiate a due diligence clause of 10, 15 days, and perhaps if it's not working, you could offer them a cash out clause between 3 to 5 working days. Another clause you can actually add in there is, especially if the property is vacant, you could ask for early access prior to settlement for cosmetic changes. So what is this? It's literally allowing you to go into the property. Maybe you can get a painter in there, you can start doing the bathroom, you can start doing some of the kitchen renos, and as long as nothing requires CCC, then this clause allows you to do those cosmetic changes. Again, if the vendor is still living in the property, it's going to be pretty hard, but if it's a vacant property, this could be a very good clause for you to get the house ready before you move in. And another clause you can sort of consider is subject to the sale of your current place. Now, even as a buyer myself, I think this is a pretty average clause, but it does protect you as a buyer. And if you're super worried that you're not going to be able to sell your house, this clause allows you to make sure you do that before you go ahead with this new property. If you're not so experienced and you don't have a good team around you, this is probably the clause you need. But I'm going to warn you, very seldom have I seen that this clause get accepted by the vendor. Lastly, are there any other suggestions that I would recommend you as a buyer to put in as a clause? Building report is always recommended. It might be a few $100, but it could often save you a few $1,000s, often maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. I actually have a whole video on building report, so do check it out in the link below. And of course, if you were to sign anything, always seek independent legal advice. Make sure you talk to your lawyer. And once you get that contract signed, what's next? I would recommend sending this to your mortgage advisor. What your mortgage advisor can actually do is give you a bank valuation so you can understand exactly how the bank sees it. Sometimes I might even get that prior to making the offer so you can actually make better decisions. The other thing that your mortgage advisor is going to be able to do for you is actually send a contract to be checked by the bank and making sure that the security is fit for purpose. Now, if you don't have a mortgage advisor yet, do check out Mortgage HQ. This is what we do. And one of our advisors can actually guide you through the buying journey and walk you through the processes. So there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed the 5-part series on upgrading your home and selling your house to buy a new one. And as a reminder, don't forget to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you guys in the next video.